All right, welcome to the Lady J Meat Dudes podcast. I'm Evan.
Wow.
Tyler.
Charlie.
Look at how excited Charlie is right now.
Enthusiastic.
Boom. So last episode, we talked about meat labels and sourcing meat and really trying to, find the best meat and what you could do to find the best meat. And one of the questions we asked was, can you visit the farm? That should be a question that you ask. Can I even visit the farm that I'm buying meat from?
Does it even exist?
Is it a freaking farm? Right. Well, guess what? We just got to visit Pure Country Farms. That's where we get, about 90% of our meat from, guys?
Even more, probably.
Yeah. So if it's not Wagyu beef, it's pretty much from Pure Country Farms.
Sure enough.
Yeah. So we got to travel over there to Moses Lake. And it is just a really awesome experience. They set up an amazing tour for us. It is a amazing family-run farm that's big enough to really supply, some restaurants, a little bit of retail, a little bit of a couple of stores. Am I right, Charlie?
Yeah, they supply all the PCCs with pork.
Wow.
All the PCCs in Washington.
In Washington. So they're big enough there, but they're also small enough to be hands-on with, family, basically hands-on in every single stage of the process.
Every stage.
I mean, it was really, really incredible.
From bookkeeper to farmer.
Yeah, and everything. I mean, their 16-year-old was driving the tractor on our tour, right, and driving the bus to the processing plant. So, I mean, it was really incredible to see that. They're the largest hog farm in Washington.
They are the largest, yeah. Largest. You said there's 3 large hog farms in Washington. Mm-hmm. 2 of them are about to close, and they're the 3rd. But they're the largest.
So that's it.
Yeah, that's what they said.
The 2 close.
Unless somebody buys them or something changes, who knows?
Yeah. So the thing that I really liked, and we'll do a lot of takeaways from the farm tour, and then we're gonna talk about you guys' experience on small farms, right? Because I'm not educated in farms. I have not worked on a farm, so this was really cool for me to go there and check it out, see the entire process of this family-run farm. And what I really liked was that they came from commercial farming. So they started out commercial farming and going, wow, I don't really like how this is done. And he said, this is the way we choose to do it, and we feel like this is the right way, the way that they're doing it now. And I love that. It was such an open and honest tour. I mean, he's got his kids, Paul Jr.'s got his kids in the bus, and they're running around. He's like, come on, guys, calm down, during the tour. It's just such a family environment. It was really cool. But the fact that they've seen the commercial side and then choose to do it this way is really eye-opening. And some of the stuff that they're talking about with commercial farming was pretty incredible, pretty not amazing.
Well, yeah, but he said, what Paul Jr. was saying is this might not be the best way or most efficient way to do it, but this is the way that they do it, and there's their own model. Yeah. They've learned from their mistakes, and now they do it how they think is the best for what they need to do and what their business model is.
And that's the whole point, right? Is what they think is the best way to do it.
Yeah, and it's ethical, it's humane, it's honest, and that's what I got, taken from that tour. I thought that was pretty cool. They grow 70% of their crops. They
grow 70% of all the feed.
Feed, yes.
And what they don't grow, they try to source with other farmers in the area that they have contracts with. And
super local.
What he said, the only thing that they have to bring in from the Midwest is flaxseed.
Yeah. And that helps with
omega-3 and 6.
Yeah. Exactly.
Healthy fats.
The healthy fats. I love he was always saying, you can tell what your animal eats.
Especially pigs.
Yeah, especially pigs. Oh, we got a big old delivery coming in, but that's all right. It's not going to be too long. So, you can tell what your animal eats. What they're trying to do is really create a consistent product for us, which I thought that, I didn't think about that with farming. You don't think about the consistency in the product, right?
You go to a grocery store, all the pork chocks look the same, right?
Yeah.
All the animals that they come from must be the same, right? But that's not nature.
It's not nature.
So they're doing the best they can to get the animal to a specific size and weight that they find has the highest yield for them and has the most consistent product at the end. But it's still nature, right? You can only manipulate it so much.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. And it was crazy, though, how they talked about in commercial farming, you basically need 1 square yard by 1 square yard to raise a hog.
Legally.
Legally, right?
But being a golfer, I know what yards are.
Yes.
3 feet.
3 feet by 3 feet square, right? Okay, so here we are.
Okay, I didn't know that.
A yardstick is 3 feet.
Yes.
Bro, that's crazy, though. Like,
Gross.
looking at some of those hogs, man, they look bigger than a freaking square yard by the time they're ready. Bro, they're humongous. man.
What about the sows? Right.
That's
those
what I'm
are
saying.
those aren't the ones that are going to harvest.
What are sows?
Those are the mothers.
Those are the
Yes.
mamas.
Yes.
Those are big.
I learned that. There was a lot of language I was picking up on, bro. I was like, he's just going off, and I'm like, okay, I gotta learn this real quick. I gotta do some Googling, man.
Evan ordered a Carhartt vest and a flannel. He's like, I'm into this now. I'm doing it.
No, it was cool though. It was really eye opening, for me to see that whole process, see how it's done. I love how they do everything from birth to harvest. We got to go into the processing plant as well, which was only 19 minutes away.
Which is very unique, right? It's usually farmers are not vertically integrated like they are, right?
Yeah.
So they from baby pig to conception to packaging, they run it all.
Yeah.
To shipping. So until it gets to preservation, they're the only ones that are touching it.
Yeah.
Right? From birth to preservation to loading dock.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's pretty cool because they have their hands in it the whole way.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Super unique.
And and I love how he said the only time the hogs are on a trailer in their life is basically when they're going to the processing plant. So, man, here, let's take a
break.
Let's take a quick break here because we've got
Gotta
we got to write some checks because we've got deliveries here, and that's what we do as restaurant owners, man. We just write checks all
I
day.
just texted Nick inside. I was like, hey, can you write a check?
All right, we'll be right back. Man, god dang, we gotta finish this up before Merlino gets here, man. That's gonna screw us over, man. So we're talking about transporting these pigs. It's the only time that they're on a trailer is from the farm to the processing plant in their entire lives for that 19 minutes. And so one of the biggest things that Paul Jr., the farmer,
I would say the biggest
thing he was talking about was stress of the animal and how
I love it.
Dude, I mean, how stress really affects the meats, the flavor, I mean, everything, the livelihood of the animal, and so many ways that they had just so many different ways of really taking stress out of the picture for these animals, which I thought was just awesome. I mean, you don't see that at many farms. So even he was talking about loading them onto the trailer. He was like, a lot of times these pigs when they get loaded, they hit this incline of like 8 feet, just boom, they just hit. They got to get up on the trailer and they're just poking and prodding them, and getting
conveyor
them on
belt.
there. Yeah, and they're just like, that's the first time they've ever hit that incline, and they're freaking out, And he's like, our ramps to load are 30 feet, so it has a slight incline. So I was like, man, just like that little stuff that they have learned over the years on how to like just do it the right way. I thought that was so incredible. And you just don't like people. A lot of people just don't care. They're like, I don't give a shit. Let's get these pigs on here and get them out. Right?
It's rad to hear from
these guys actually care.
Farmers aspect because we've talked about it before.
Mm-hmm.
On our podcast of like what that does to an animal. It's like think about the first time you got in a fight, how nervous your body gets in that, right?
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine that? Like exponentially huger for an animal because they have no idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know chemically what that does, but it's got to be fucking awful.
Oh yeah, man. Raising these animals stress free as much as possible. What was the big takeaway for you, Charlie, about the stress free?
About the stress.
Because he talked about it.
He talked about it
probably
a lot.
2 dozen times, which was awesome. Like that's the message that I want to get through here. Is these animals
good mantra.
We tried to do our best to keep them stress free the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just like how many things that they've changed over the years to just keep on getting better and better and better, and not just like being like, oh, this is
working.
This is the way it goes. They're like, oh, they're just constantly tweaking stuff.
Yeah.
To make it more stress free. Like then they bought. Originally, they were shipping their pigs, like 350 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Even you can do all you can to make it stress free at that point, but you're still shipping them on a truck.
Yeah.
now that they've purchased, in the last 5 years, they purchased a facility that's only, 19 minutes away from the farm.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's going to be 100 times better than it was even when they were doing everything the same.
Right.
Everything about it's better. Economical.
Absolutely. Right.
Carbon footprint.
Totally, man. And it was cool. So when we got to that facility, I love that Paul Sr. was there. So,
The man who started it all.
The OG, man, that started it all. And it was just cool. I mean, going back to the whole family, like everywhere we went on the tour, like family members were there. Like we're riding in the back of the tractor in this trailer, and Paul Sr.'s wife is there, who runs the entire operation with Paul, and I mean, just there, just hanging out, seeing the animals, chit chatting with us, the kids are there, the 16-year-old's driving the tractor, Paul Jr.'s wife's there, they had an incredible, experience at lunch for us. I was just like, man, you don't get that.
I mean, they care about what they do. Like they said, yeah, they can have a farm,
mm-hmm.
but it's not just a farm to them. It's their brand. It's their family legacy.
Man.
Right?
That's
Like they're trying to this farm is hopefully the exact same in 100 years than it is from today.
I love that when Paul Sr. said that. Right? He said, I don't want my grandkids in 100 years to clean up my mess, So that's why, they compost everything. They're sustainable. He doesn't want to have this big old pile of crap over there that's like, whatever, we're making a bunch of money, and let's just keep dumping.
Right.
And now my great grandkids are living with that. So I thought that was super cool. They just have such a great philosophy and process. It was just fun to see. It was really refreshing because and we hear about it a lot from our meat distributor, Preservation Meat Collectives, and the relationship that they have with the farmers was really fun to see. That they have this fun banter, they're giving each other shit, but like they have like a strong relationship, which is great because now we know that we have a great farm, and then they trust the people that are getting the preservation meat, that are getting the meat to us. So the only hands that are touching this meat, it was like we met, so like it's not going through a bunch of different areas and checkpoints and everything. It's going through right from the farm to Preservation Meat Collective to us, to our consumers, with some of the best meat that we can provide. And that was so important for us to see. So
shared vision.
Exactly. It really is a shared vision. And I'm glad, on another hand, too, I'm glad I got to see the whole operation, because we talked about that. I haven't been on the farm. You guys have both, slaughtered animals.
I want to know the shock value.
Man, I felt like, they said, okay, we're at the processing plant. Like, they're very open and honest. Like, this is where it happens. And, if you want to look behind this door, you can. And I was like, I feel like I need to. I feel like I can't be talking about all this stuff if I'm not able to look at that, right? And they do it in a very humane way, and it was, I was like, okay, I see it, and
I mean, if you're gonna eat meat,
you got to know.
You should know.
And that's what I say to people in the classes too, because they're like looking at cleaning a tenderloin and like watching it, and I'm like explaining to people that when we did the whole percentage of Hollywood cuts on an animal or whatever, the 8%, I'm like, this is one piece. When you go to Costco or any grocery store and you're sorting through the piles of meat and you're looking for your favorite one, you don't put that together until you really see
You're
it.
just flipping through animals.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, this is one. Haha.
Right.
You just touched thousands of pounds of an animal, right?
Exactly.
What was the biggest shock value when you saw that?
I mean, I don't know. I wasn't super shocked or taken aback. I mean, we're walking through. There's carcasses hanging in the processing plant, right? And so we're walking through. We're seeing all these carcasses, and that to me I didn't really have a huge effect. I wasn't like, oh my gosh,
You see us cutting meat all the time, so it's just a bigger version of that.
Exactly.
To see an animal alive, and then oh boy, it starts to strike a different chord.
It did. It wasn't, I wasn't too taken aback, I guess,
cool.
because
I mean, you knew what you were getting into.
Yeah, I knew what I was getting into, and Paul Sr. was right there and explained the process, and I was like, wow, okay. He's like, this is what we do. This is the humane way that we do it, and I was like, okay, that's how it gets done. So, I just felt like it was something, personally I needed to see and be a part of. So I'm glad I experienced that.
It's
and
cool.
Could see it and could learn. And talking about, circling back to the feedback, one thing that Paul Jr. talked about a lot was the feedback loop, and from us and from customers and from preservation.
This is huge.
And I was just thinking, I was like, I never thought of like farmers like connecting like a huge feedback loop, right? Because he says that with commercial there isn't a feedback loop because the packers, the big packers, like I probably shouldn't name names, just
Big
because,
packers.
Yeah, big packers.
Big packers.
They are like, we don't want to tell the farmer what they're doing well because we don't want to pay more for this product, and that makes a lot of sense.
It does make sense, but you don't think about that.
You don't think about that. He wants that feedback. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And we want to set up these feedback loops so we can actually hear this and get the right feedback and make the right decisions. And it's like thinking about big businesses. That's how big businesses work. And it was just, I don't know, I thought that was really interesting from a farmer perspective to see that, to hear that, for how much that means to him to hear that feedback. Another interesting thing was he said, if you guys serve a meal in your restaurant, the next day somebody could call and say, oh, I had a bad meal, or I could get a bad Yelp review or a great Yelp review. So like you have like basically like a 24-hour feedback loop. He's like, mine for cows is 3 years. So the decision I make today, 3 years from now, I will understand if it's the right decision. And that's a pretty big.
And a large investment as well.
Large investment, a lot of time, man.
Yeah.
So, let's get into the cows a little bit. They are a big hog farm.
Yeah.
More so a hog farm than a cattle farm, in my perspective.
Yeah, that's what we experienced anyways.
Yeah.
I think that they originally were hog farmers, and
Yeah.
so that's always going to be like their first, whatever.
Yeah.
First
So we got to
priority.
correct it a little bit on how many head, right?
Yeah. So with the pigs, they do 100 150 a week, somewhere around there.
A week.
Yeah, and with the cattle, they do about maybe up to 20 to 30. So still, large enough to be able to, provide us with a consistency of cuts and at a good price, but small enough to keep their hands on everything, right? That's what I really liked about it. But with the cattle, I learned a lot about like grass and they're pasture raised cattle about 70 to 80% of their life, and then they're finished on the feed of barley and peas, and he like pulled the feed out and we're like smelling it. Man, it was pretty crazy. But he talked a lot about chasing grass with cattle, which I never thought about. He said this cheat grass that's on their farm is super luscious, really healthy, but it's only good for about 45 to 90 days depending on the rain. And then we got to move them up to the Canadian border, basically, where they have this super lush like mountain grass. Rainwater is like the second best type of grass, I guess. It's just funny talking about like chasing these grasses and how much you don't really think about like being a farmer. It's basically just growing grass is a big part of what you do, and understanding how that works and how that can feed the animal. So
yes, seasonal. Right, they got to move them.
Super seasonal, right?
Especially in Moses Lake.
Yeah,
it gets bone dry and everything dies.
I was just gonna say that. What about a drought year? And like the things, those are the scariest things for farmers to even think about.
Oh my god!
They get 8 inches of rain a year.
Yeah, was that
total?
That's not very much.
Well, we could get like 2 in a week.
You get an inch and a half in a day.
Yeah. Everything just depends on the rain, man. That was something we don't think about all the time. We're like, oh man, it's raining out. Darn it, I can't go outside.
Put my Gore-Tex jacket on.
Oh man, what else was your biggest takeaway, Charlie, from kind of meeting everybody to the entire tour?
One of my biggest questions, which I didn't get to, I got a little bit of information about it, is, and if you look at the farm as a whole picture, how do they quantify, how do they know they're making money, right? Because he's talking about his expenses, like a $30,000 truck full of diesel every 7 to 10 days, right?
Crazy.
So how do you know at the end, because they have so many moving parts, that they're actually profiting? Because everybody's in it to profit, you're not in business to not make money.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, I'll have to go back and pick his brain about a little bit more, but I think from what I heard is every farmer basically knows how much they need to make off per animal. That's how it kind of the easiest math.
Yeah.
So they know how they have to do.
Probably derived from their background of actually working in commodity and big business, right?
Yeah.
They saw the ratio and didn't agree with the
process.
but they were like, they understood what it takes, and they just want to do it better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just all the little things that they have to do. You know, like milling their own feed because it saves them money and makes it more consistent. You know, like so many, all the computerized stuff that they've brought over from Germany to make their hogs so they eat the proper amount of food for them.
Yeah.
And just all those
That was
little
all
things.
digitized. That was crazy.
Everything that's like little just to make it more efficient and less stress. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
a lot to
dude.
think about as a whole
was.
picture.
Yeah. And we were on that tour for a good 6-7 hours.
Right.
Like legit.
And we could have done probably another 3 hours just on more beef.
Yeah. I mean, it was super interesting, dude. Got a little chilly with those winds, you know. It's cold. A little chilly with those winds out there, but man, you know, it was yeah, man, it was a really cool experience. I think you know, meeting that whole family and kind of seeing how everybody is really, you know, integrated was such a good experience. I don't know. I left there feeling that I was proud of where our meat came from.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, man, like I already was, but
Already
then
were, but now you feel like
yeah.
I
was
fuck
like, wow.
yeah, I
was
saw
like,
it.
Just kind of just pulled it all together, man.
Yeah.
Just how open and honest, you know, they were. And I love, you know, they're a never ever farm, right? They're
Right.
never ever, no antibiotics, no hormones.
Never ever, which means
Never ever.
Never ever antibiotics and hormones, right? So, but then as we're on the tour, he goes, hey, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Those animals over there, they got sick. And so we put them in a different place, and we do treat sick animals, you know, but they will be sold to a different, you know, to a different consumer type of consumer. Those will not get mixed in with the never evers that we serve you guys. And I was like, cool. Like a lot of places probably, you know, maybe hide that. 'Cause
Yeah.
he was, you know,
Another
I'm
thing
sure a
of
lot of people
honesty,
say, oh,
right?
we never use it ever, even when, you know, our animals don't get sick. He's like, animals get sick on farms. It happens, man. And we're going to put them over here and we're going to treat them because that's a humane thing to do. And then we're going to, you know, get it out of their system and then sell it to, you know, a different type of consumer. I thought that was honest, man. Like, you don't have to tell us that stuff, you know?
No.
But, like, he was just super honest the whole time. And it was
they
just...
have USDA inspectors.
Oh, man. 3 of them on site and a
on-site,
veterinarian.
And
yeah.
the veterinarian to know
Yep.
Dietitian.
Random
right
drug
away
testing.
when something's going. And
Yep. And they check organs and all that stuff, man.
crazy.
Yeah, dude. That's just... That was pretty funky, man. But yeah, I was super proud. It's crazy that they can, you know... They're big, but they're not that big, right?
They're not big at all.
For them
man.
to like do, you know, give us a consistent product every single week. We're pretty lucky to be part of that program.
Absolutely.
And you know, I mean, what are they? They're the biggest hog farm in Washington, but how many people do they really service? Right? They service.
I mean, when you sit there and you see it,
right?
it's not that big.
It's not. We took a little tractor tour around.
Yeah.
You know, we could have probably walked it.
We definitely could have walked it. It made it a lot faster.
You didn't hop in a helicopter and go up to the Canadian border to
No.
see the other grasses.
But I mean, if they're the largest hog farmer and they're selling to restaurants in Seattle,
In
some
Washington.
restaurants in, you know, other places, they do some direct to consumer right out of the front of the processing facility. They sell to PCC pork, but I mean, I don't know the percentage, but it's not that much of a percentage of the amount of people that live in Washington
that eat pork.
that eat pork or
Yeah.
you know, buy bacon or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
buy bacon.
Bacon's a
right?
huge one.
So
Breakfast sausage.
where does all the rest of the pork in Washington come from?
From the Corn Belt.
Nebraska.
Most of it, yeah. Like I said, there's
Iowa.
another percentage.
There's also small family farms and
Yes,
pigs that
exactly.
people buy at farmers markets and stuff like that. But
Yeah, but for the most part, when you go into a grocery store like a QFC, you're probably seeing pork
Yeah.
from
it's
you know
yeah.
the Corn Belt.
Not super local.
Yeah, yeah, and it's hard. I mean, he talked about how Washington wasn't a super agricultural friendly state because the costs are really high.
Well, the cost of real estate, right?
Yeah.
Cost of labor, cost of real estate, cost of
labor.
goods.
Oh yeah.
Transportation and all.
Well, he was saying to do the exact same thing there in the Midwest. It's so much cheaper because we are so close to the port
Mm-hmm.
and everything. I don't know, something about the port, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Something about how there's like, just because of our proximity to export, the cost of goods are more here or something like that.
And it's labor too, because there's like they
Oh, for
passed
sure.
a labor law in Washington, something about overtime and everything.
Well,
like
farmhands
that.
now get paid overtime,
Yeah.
which they never did before.
They never did before. They don't in other states. So, which is a good thing. And he's like, we didn't cut anybody. He's like, we didn't cut anybody, and he's like, we pay a good wage. People have 401ks and health care with that farm. I'm like,
Remember talking about beef prices going up?
bro.
More than one reason.
Yeah, I know, right? That's a lot. It's a lot that I mean, it costs them a lot more money to produce what they produce than versus a commercial, because it takes more time. Like commercial hogs are about 5.5 months. Birth to harvest, and these guys are about 7 to 8 months birth to harvest, and the feed is more expensive, and the labor, the space. I mean, like they have all those different open air hog pens where they move them like week to week as they grow through the cycle, and to get them ready to get them on the trailer. Right? Each pen gets a little bit smaller, so then they can get them used to moving in that direction, which I thought was another stress-free concept, which I thought was really cool. And they got like bowling balls in there and stuff. He's like, yeah, the pigs love bowling balls, man. We do like thousands of dollars of dog toys, but they just want a damn bowling ball and chains. They just want to like bite the damn chains.
They're goofy animals.
Oh yeah,
they're running around like crazy.
Man, he's like they all have a different personality. They all have a personality, which is crazy. And he's like, you can see it as they get older through the process, how all these have like a little bit different personality. They're all running around and stuff like that. It was cool, man.
I got bit on the ankle one time
Did
during a slaughter from another pig, and it freaked me out.
Yeah,
I didn't look at him the same after that. I was like,
so you guys
coming
worked
for me?
Dude, you guys worked on small farms, right? It's like super small farm where they had how many, like one to two pigs? or
Mostly
10
Tyler,
pigs?
yeah.
I think at the very most there were 6, maybe 8, but generally
Okay.
I think it was like 6.
How often do you guys harvest?
Probably when they're ready would be like once every 2 months,
Yeah.
maybe not even, because here we didn't have this huge refrigeration
Uh-huh.
like you do at Pure Country, right? You have
Yeah.
like 2 different spots. You have your general refrigeration after slaughter, and they get their chill, and then they go
Yep.
to the dry aging room or whatever.
Yeah.
This is a small farm, so it had to be cold outside.
Ooh.
So, which kind of sucked. Like the first time we did it, there was snow on the ground. It was fucking chilly.
Ooh, man.
So you kind of had to know when to buy your sucklers and bring them onto the farm, and then you grow them all spring and summer until you reach X amount of pounds, and then it's
Okay.
harvest time. It's harvest time.
Yeah.
So we would have to, and then processing a 400-pound hog. Like, what are they, 200 pounds probably at Pure Country?
Yeah, I didn't get the total weight. Maybe closer to 3.
I would say 3.
And that's live animal, right?
It's
So
just,
there's a lot of
just think
stuff
about
that comes out of that.
football players that are big, about 300 pounds. Yeah, they're probably about 300 pounds.
Shut up. But yeah, so there we had to kind of time it all around the temperature, because we'd have to hang them outside or in a barn overnight and let them chill and rigor and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
there wasn't really this is so programmed.
Yeah.
There is very, very rustic. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Chef, it's going to be cold tomorrow. Come on over. Bring your knife. Like, ooh, okay. See you in the morning.
We got to do a whole episode on what that's like from to slaughter. I think that would be
Okay.
woo. Yeah.
It's a gnarly experience. I remember saying something to you maybe last week where, I did it so many times that I grew up in rural areas like Idaho and Montana, and I was never a hunter.
Yeah.
Never killed anything other than like a blackbird with my BB gun,
Yeah.
which made me feel bad anyway. To have this experience of like actually killing an animal and like having that cerebral moment of you just kind of turn off. Like,
Yeah.
I just have a job to do.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so when it's after like 20 times of doing this and it just kind of became a job and nothing really affected me emotionally all that much, kind of freaked me out. So I stopped.
Yeah.
But now, going to Pure Country and seeing that kind of program, these guys are just like, it's just part of the program. You just,
Yep.
you get over it.
Yeah.
You just get over it. it just freaks me out because I'm a wuss. Because I love animals.
Yeah.
I love animals.
Well, understanding that whole process, man, is important. I think that's, I want to bring light to that whole process and talk about it. And
It's intense.
And it is in the way that they've done it and they've run their program to be as humanely as possible is pretty. It's good to see, man. That's like leaving that place. I was like, cool. I feel good, man. I feel good that we're working with these guys, man.
For sure.
Yeah. So that was really a big takeaway, man. I mean, that's just couldn't be happier to be part of the entire family there, man. And so now that we have open access there, we can call them up anytime, get all our questions answered. It's just gonna be cool.
When you say we.
Now
true,
it
right?
is we.
Yeah, it
man.
is. Yeah,
Now
we're
it
part
is
of the
we.
program. We've been there.
We are us. So, guys, you have any finishing thoughts here about the farm or small farms?
Small farms. I mean,
it's hard work, man.
Yeah.
I'd say it's hard work. It takes a lot of dedication to do it right. And
to do it right,
I
especially.
think we're pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Super lucky.
Yeah.
And, our mantra all the time is just know where your product comes from.
Exactly. And
Just
we do.
Yeah.
Now
Period.
we really, really do. And I think there'll be more tours down the road. We'll have to get up there, go visit. No, it's not too bad of a drive.
Nah.
Man, we popped over there a couple hours.
Go have a Applebee's burger.
Probably in Moses Lake. Yeah, bro.
Moses Lake.
Hey, I'll get some potato skins, bro. I ain't too proud. Well, cool, man. Let's wrap it up for the Lady J Meat Dudes. I'm Evan.
Tyler.
Charlie.
Look at that. Let's go.
Chuckles.
Gotta go.
Perfect timing because Merlino's here too.
All right.
Hello.